welcome. Today I've got a book review for you. It's called Diary of a Young Naturalist, and it's a British Book Award winning memoir by Irish teen Dara McAnulty. I've got my sidekick here, Honey. This is my kid's Budgie, if you're watching along to the show today. And I've got her along because Dara is a really keen birdwatcher, so we're thinking all things birds here on the show. But I'll let you know that the show is brought to you today by the Your Family Story system, which helps you interview a loved one and create their own life story. I have some more details about how you can do that and get some free sections to the Your Family Story system at the end of the show. So please stay with me. If you are new to Forever Young Autobiographies, it is the place where we learn how to create life stories for family and friends, so unique memories can live on. It'd be really awesome if you could follow, subscribe and like the show. So what is Diary of a Young Naturalist? Well, it's really intense, it's really evocative, and it's put out by a really remarkable Irish teen. He's an environmentalist, and it covers the heady ups and the low lows of his life. It came out recently by Little Toller Books, and it has won many accolades. Of course, the British Book Award 2021 for Non-Fiction Narrative Book of the Year. So in today's show, I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview about this book, about Dara, him living with autism, and some tips we can take away from his book for our own life story creating. So let's get to it. A little bit more about the book. So it's basically, in short, it's 1 year of Dara's life when he's age 15, and it starts in springtime in Northern Ireland. And it covers the traditional, well, I suppose, topics you would think a teenager would cover. You've got things like school, you've got friends, family, there's exams, there's holidays. And of course, about him being autistic. But the big focus of this book is all about wild places, about bird watching and environmental protection and the way our biosphere is changing. Some really big topics that are covered in this book, but some interesting things too. Now, I could have picked out many things, but there's three things that I think would make this a really interesting read. You get, first of all, a great perspective of the world and of a younger person's eyes, which we don't often get, these days. Like, it's obviously life stories, got a whole spectrum of people who write them, but we don't often get the younger version, the younger perspective. So I thought that was really interesting. Another thing was that Dara brings up that his generation aren't as exposed in their day-to-day life to natural spaces, like for example in his grandfather's day, because he says of urban development. So in a few generations back, there was a lot more nature in the neighbourhood, whereas he thinks and he's found it's not so much the case for his generation, which I thought was really interesting. And of course, he goes into detail about what it's like to be autistic. Things like, I didn't realise, was that he preferred to learn outside. He's having to check himself when he's in public about emotional displays, and then it's really difficult around loud noises. So I learnt quite a lot about what it was to be autistic. I had no idea. So the third thing I want to bring up in today's show is, what can we learn as life story creators from this wonderful book? Well, again, I could have gone into many different topics here, but I think one that really stood out for me was how Dara set up this book. Now, he did a little bit differently, and he had 4 parts. These corresponded to the seasons. So, as I said, started in spring, then we had summer, autumn and winter, and he divides his book up into those 4 parts for a whole year. And he doesn't so much have chapters, he has diary entries. So he has the headings of the year or the date, his chapter headings. And I thought that was really a little bit different, but it worked really well. So something to think about. Also, of course, Irish, he had quite a few traditional Irish words in his writing. And that was probably just natural for him But I thought it was really, as an outsider, as Australian, don't get to hear these words very often, or if at all. They were all new to me. But I thought it gave his writing a lot of colour, and it was almost a little bit enchanting the way he described those words and what they meant. And finally, he used a lot of techniques to tell a really entertaining story. For example, he used flashbacks, he used dramatic structure, and a lot of really, really raw emotional reflections. So I think just to pick up the book and look for those kind of things, you're really going to learn a lot that you can take away for your own writing. So there you go, that's pretty much a quick book review about it's an amazing dive into the natural world and walking on this autistic path. That's Diary of a Young Naturalist. So to recap, told you a little bit about the book, about interesting things you might get as a reader, but also things you can take away, you can learn from his writing for your own work. So more than anything, I hope in this book, in this show, you can see that it's not just people, senior people, older people, it's young people who can really write or create wonderful life stories that are quite impactful. So if you'd like to know more about Dara and this book, go over to my website at foreveryoungautobiographies.com/diary of a young naturalist to see more about, there's some quotes from the book, there's a picture of the book, there's a picture of Dara, and there's links to go to his website and to purchase the book. But I'd really like you to answer the question while you're over there. Have you got a favourite bird or perhaps a favourite wild place? Dara shares many of those in his book, and I'd love to hear yours. So leave me a comment here over at the website, and if you have any questions about life story creating, could be planning, could be doing the actual creating or the writing, the polishing and the publishing, go over to foreveryoungautobiographies.com/contact. Send me that question. I'd love to hear from you. So at the top of the show, I mentioned the Your Family Story system, and you can get some free sections to that by going to foreveryoungautobiographies.com/free. Now, in the system, I explain how to sit down or prepare and organise an interview with a loved one, and then sit down and interview them, record their life stories, and then package it up in different formats so you can celebrate their life story. Yes, that's right. So please check that out. I'll leave the links for you over at the website or here on this platform in the show notes. And until then, everyone, I really hope that you can follow, subscribe, like the show, leave a review if you found it helpful. And I'll see you really soon with another topic. So until then, happy writing.